Hi, my name's Hannah Minty. I'm a partner in the family team here at Russell-Cooke, and I wanted to talk to you today about Christmas. The weather was a balmy 23 degrees at the weekend, so it came as rather a shock to me as I walked past the seasonal aisle in my local supermarket and realised that the picnic items and the back to school bits and bobs had all been replaced with rows upon rows of mince pies. I may be clinging on to the dregs of summer with my fingertips, but as far as the retailers are concerned, the Christmas countdown clock is on. It's less than 100 days. And the festive food dial is just the start. Soon, whether we want it or not, we will all be surrounded by the trimmings and trappings of the most wonderful time of the year. But Christmas is not always an easy time for many people, including separating families with children. One of the major stresses in the past might have been the escalating items on the children's wish list or tensions over whose turn it is to host the in-laws. But for separated families, the festive season can raise a lot of new problems to navigate. Many separated parents find it difficult to agree the arrangements for the children and where they'll spend the significant days around the Christmas and the New Year period, or what time they'll each spend with extended families. One of the most difficult aspects of my job as a family lawyer is receiving calls from distressed parents in the run-up to Christmas who haven't been able to agree the arrangements for their children and who are looking for somebody who can help them. The sad reality is that often at that late stage, there is very little that can be done to resolve any disputes. So before the supermarkets start blaring out Deck the Halls, I wanted to take a few moments to reflect on some things which might help avoid a Christmas meltdown. The first thing that it can be helpful to remember is that there is no one size fits all when it comes to Christmas. Every family is different and each family has their own Christmas traditions and different things which are a priority for them. What worked for your best friends, cousins, neighbour might not work for your family. So I recommend that you sit down and you make a list of what's really important to you and then try and think about what's important to your former partner. Different factors might come into play: the age of children, how close you both live to each other, how amicable you're able to be at the moment. So try and identify areas for compromise and areas of potential conflict and think about ways in which you might be able to address those in a way which works for you both. And try and remember extended family as well. Grandparents on both sides are likely to want to spend time with the children over Christmas, so try and work that into any arrangements which you come up with together. And be fair. Try and think about the impact of your plans upon the other parent and ask yourself whether you would be happy if those plans were reversed for the next year. If the answer is no, then it might be a reason to revisit. You may also have to be flexible. We don't yet know what the arrangements for COVID restrictions might be. And when they were thrown into the mix for Christmas 2020, it turned many parents' plans that had been carefully pre-arranged on their heads. So navigating arrangements for children at Christmas can be difficult enough without throwing a global pandemic into the mix. Although it is worth remembering that even during the strictest of measures, with COVID lockdown, children were permitted to travel between separated families, and we expect that that's likely to continue if lockdown is reintroduced again. The second thing that I always tell clients is that it's never too early to start talking about Christmas. It is a difficult conversation, and a lot of my clients tell me that they put it off until it really couldn't be avoided because they anticipated that it was going to lead to conflict. But this is one area of co-parenting where staying silent can definitely store up problems for you in the longer term, and it may cause you more stress and anxiety. If you start the discussions early and it's clear that the two of you are going to need some sort of assistance to come to an agreement, then you have plenty of time left to obtain this. And something which a lot of my clients find has worked for them in the past is going to mediation. Now, you might already be familiar with mediation because it's an increasingly useful tool for separating couples to help them sort out all of the practical issues which they might need to address as they're separating: divorce, finance, longer term arrangements for children. But it's also helpful to know that mediation can be used at any time to address a particular issue. So whether you haven't even started contemplating what might happen in the longer term, or whether you've sorted all of those things out a long time ago and you're just having a particular issue with this Christmas, it is definitely worth remembering that a mediator could help the two of you to discuss this as a discrete issue. A mediator can meet with you and your former partner, and they can identify the issues which you can't agree upon and then try and help you reach a practical solution which works for the two of you and for your children. The mediator is neutral, so their role isn't to provide you with advice or impose a solution on you, but they'll seek to guide you towards something which is mutually acceptable for the two of you. And this is often done at a fraction of the cost of court proceedings and without the long-term damage to your parenting relationship which court proceedings can bring. Mediation is a flexible process, and it puts the two of you in control of sorting out what's really important to you both and to your children. And many mediators now offer flexible ways of mediating, like video conferencing as well as face-to-face sessions. So you don't necessarily need to be in the same room if it's impractical or if it's something that you prefer to avoid. There are some mediators who are also trained to meet with children, and if that's appropriate, the children can then express their views to somebody who's neutral and who's trained to deal with that situation instead of to you as parents directly. If mediation doesn't feel like the right option for you and your family, then you'd still like someone to assist you, you could try the collaborative process, which is a holistic approach where both of you and your respective lawyers all sit down in one room together and try and commit to reaching an agreement without court proceedings. Instead of one neutral mediator, you'll each have the benefit of your respective lawyers there to assist you in the discussions and support you, and everyone will commit at the very outset of the proceedings to avoiding court proceedings. And if you can't reach a resolution and the discussions break down, you actually have to instruct different lawyers to start court proceedings, which a lot of clients find is something which helps keep them focused on reaching a resolution even when the process gets a little bit difficult. Another process which might help you is arbitration. Arbitration is a voluntary process, so you both have to agree to arbitrate, but once you do enter into the process, you are guaranteed a binding conclusion at the end of it. You appoint one arbitrator that you both agree upon, so there will be a cost for their time, but it can be faster, flexer and more informal than court proceedings. And because you choose the arbitrator, there's no need to wait for a court date or listing to become available. It can be tailor-made to suit the two of you, which makes it ideal for sorting out arrangements like Christmas time, especially if it's time sensitive, and there was a risk that the court might not otherwise be able to deal with the application in time for you both to make plans which suit the two of you and your children. If you really cannot agree upon the arrangements for Christmas, then an application can be made to the court, setting out what time the children will spend with each of you over Christmas. But I should stress that the court should really be used as a last resort for these kind of circumstances. It generally isn't for the family courts to micromanage arrangements for children, and wherever possible, you will be encouraged to try and sort these things out between the two of you. If either of you makes an application to court, then the decision will be made on the basis of what the judge thinks is in the children's best interests. And you should bear in mind that this might not be what you want, it might not be what your former partner wants, and it might not actually be what the children want. You should take some time at the outset to sort of consider the impact that court proceedings could have on your parenting relationship. These court cases can lead to a greater tension and anger between the two of you, and the financial and the emotional cost of court proceedings really cannot be stressed enough. If an application is going to be necessary, then you need to allow sufficient time to do it. The family courts are really stretched, and if you have to wait for perhaps 2 months for your application to be determined, then it's not going to be possible for you to leave this until early December to ask the court to step in and help you resolve any dispute that's arisen between the two of you. Start your discussions early, and that will help you identify if you're going to have difficulties and give you the fullest range of options available to resolve any dispute in a way which works for you best as a family. My final piece of advice is try to put yourself in the children's shoes. You may no longer be together, but you are still parents, and you still try and each consider things from the children's perspective. Don't ask them to choose, but it can be helpful to allow them to express their views, particularly with older children who like to know that their voice is being heard. The arrangement should focus on what's best for the children, and sometimes it can feel a little bit difficult to separate this out from what you each want, particularly if emotions are running very high. Children are astute and they do pick up on arguments and tension, even if you try your best not to discuss it in front of them. If you really cannot agree, a court is likely to conclude that the children deserve the opportunity to spend time with each of you and with the other people who are important to them in the family, and this will often lead to the sharing of Christmas and the alternating of key days. Whatever the outcome, be sure to share the plans with the children and emphasise the positives and discuss it with them. I hope this helps and that you're able to resolve the arrangements for your Christmas constructively. But if you do need some assistance, we have a team of specialist family lawyers here at Russell-Cooke, together with a number of mediators and an arbitrator who can help you try and resolve things in the way which is best for your family.